Hello. The lesson I'm sharing with you today is the lesson of creation from Genesis 1, and this is meant to take place during the great green growing season, so sometime after the season of Easter has been completed. Most likely this won't be taking place here at Trinity Kids this year until closer into July, which is a good connection to Vacation Bible School, in which we'll be studying the creation Psalms the 7th through the 11th of July. So you might mention to the children as you're talking about creation that this will connect to the things that they'll be learning during VBS. And of course, you wouldn't begin the lesson until all of the kids had arrived. Give them time to get settled in, introduce yourself, ask them how their summer's going. Since this will most likely take place every year, but particularly for sure this time around during our summer season, it's a great opportunity to ask the children what they thought about worship, what it was like to experience the liturgy, how they felt hearing the prayers or the scripture read from the pulpit. You might even ask them what their favorite instrument was that they saw up on stage and how that instrument might be used to glorify God. It's a really excellent opportunity to touch base with them about the purpose of worship and what it means to worship as a community, as a corporate group of believers. So definitely pay tribute to what they've been up to for the previous 30 minutes before they arrive, since they'll have been worshiping together. And then after they've gotten settled in, you'll refer to the circle of the church year, having someone move the arrow onto the next Sunday of that great green growing season, and then you'll begin your lesson. It's likely that you won't have a lot of time for art response and worship here in the classroom, but if possible, I would, give them time for that, since this is a very creative lesson, giving them opportunity to create something maybe that mimics the lesson itself, which of course we'll have provided for you, or just an opportunity to illustrate their favorite part of the story. I hate for this opportunity to go missed. So if they do have time, give them the chance to head over to the art materials. Something else that I definitely recommend to complement the lesson today is a book called The Genesis of It All by Lucy Shaw, who's a really fantastic writer, and the illustrations are just beautiful. It goes over each day of creation. It really touches on a lot of the amazing science that we might glean from the creation story, and the way that God's creative power was really a part of ecology and biology, and not just a nice story, but a really amazing testimony to how creative and wonderful our world is. So definitely read this if you have the opportunity as well. Even if some of them do art and some of them hear the story, it's a great one. All right, so then we'll begin. And I'm going to tip this down so that you can see what the lesson materials look like. Friends, what are some of the greatest gifts that you have? All of you have gifts. All of you have received gifts. All of you have given gifts. What are some of the greatest gifts that you have? After you've given them the opportunity to respond, you'll tie up that portion of conversation by saying this. Now, all of those are really great and big gifts, but I can think of something even bigger. There are some gifts that are so big that it's very hard to see them. They're everywhere, but they are so big that sometimes we forget that they are there. I don't know how to see them unless we go back to the beginning, or just before the beginning. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. Now, in the very beginning, there was nothing except for God. God was there, always. Maybe an enormous smile, the smile of God. God decided to create something really amazing, to create an incredible gift. So he began. And out of that nothing, the first thing that God created was the gift of light. He gave us, all of us, everyone that's ever lived or ever will live, all of us here, He gave us the gift of light. I'm not just talking about a light switch or a flashlight. I'm not just talking about the sun or the stars. I'm not just talking about the moon reflecting the sun's light or the brightest thing you've ever seen. I'm talking about all light. All light. What is present in light that makes it light? It's a mystery, isn't it? There are a lot of ways to understand it, but it all came from God. God gave us light. And when He saw the light, He said, "That's good. That's very good." And then the light and the dark were not the same anymore. Later, we might think of God going to sleep and waking up, and He began again. The next thing that God made was water. And again, I don't just mean water in a glass, or water in the ocean, or even water in a big raging river. More than that, I mean all water. What is water that makes it water? God made that. He created water. Water below the sky, water above the sky. God made it. And when He looked at it, He said, "It is good. It's very good." What a gift. Now imagine God going to bed, waking up again. And the next thing He created was, from the water, He separated dry land. And look what's growing on that dry land. Plants. Green growing things. All the land. Deserts, mountains, valleys, forests. All the land taken away from the water. Of course, we know there's even there's even land way beneath the water too. But God lifted some of it up out of the water. He had great power to do this. He used all the resources that He had created to make the dry land and the plants begin to grow. And when He looked at this, He said, "This is good." Imagine peach trees, raspberries, bananas, grass, potatoes, green beans, cherries, grapevines, kudzu, everything. All of the green things on the earth, God created, and the dry land to let them grow. Now imagine again, God goes to sleep, wakes again. Another chance to create, another chance to begin again. This time, I know you can guess what I'm talking about. The moon and the stars, the sun. The fourth thing that God created was the great lights of the sky. The moon and the stars reflecting the sun's light, guiding us in the darkness. The sun to rule over the day, wakefulness, awake times, day times. We know the plants need the sun to grow also. The sun and the moon and the stars, God created them all. Every time you see them, remember that God made those. 1, 2, 3, 4. asleep, awake. Another time, another chance to create something wonderful. Another gift came from God. You might say the fifth day. The fifth thing that God created was He went back to that water. He went back to that sky. He created animals to live in the water. Sharks and fish and minnows and crabs. Whales. Itty bitty teeny tiny creatures. Many of whom we still don't know the names of, deep, deep, deep in the water. And all those amazing creatures that can fly in the sky come down to nest in the green plants on the land. God created them too. He saw these just as He had seen everything each time. It is good. It is good. It is good. And again, He saw the birds of the sky, the creatures of the sea. He said, this is good. It is good. What I've created is good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this day is a very special day. This time that God set apart to create something that could walk on the dry land. Walk with 2 legs or walk with 4 legs. Slither with no legs at all. God created animals, people, to live on the earth. He looked at the animals. He looked at the people. God looked at all of this and said, it is good. It is very, very good. The light, the water, the dry land and plants, the moon and the stars and the sun, birds of the air and creatures of the water, animals and people. Whew. That's a lot of work. The last thing that God did on the 7th day, the last thing that God did was He rested. Maybe He strung a big hammock up in the sky and rested in it. Maybe He watched the sunset, watched the flowers grow, the birds flying. He rested. He rested. He didn't create anything here. He enjoyed what He had made, and He rested. Wonder which of these days, which of these parts of the creation story you find most interesting. I think the lights of the sky, the planets, the sun, the moon, the stars, I find them fascinating. How about you? Which do you think is the most special to you? Which one would you like to be there to see? Now God rested here. I wonder how you like to rest. You might have heard the word Sabbath. I wonder how you like to Sabbath or rest. Put aside the work. Put aside the busy. Where do you go to rest? Sabbath. Okay. Of course, there'll be lots of questions, lots of input during that initial conversation and the final wondering, but give time and space to that. If you feel like you have the opportunity to read this book, to give them the chance to create their own creation cards, which tell each part of the story, either is great. But I hope that this is helpful, and I will look forward to serving alongside you soon. Thank you so much. Bye.